Hi, and welcome to your Monday Mindset Moments. I am your presenter, Vanessa Callahan. I'm here as the leader and lead coach and founder of Raising Our Resilience, which is a company we're set out to and on a mission to empower parents with high quality and effective tools and strategies that actually work and that kids love to bring the family closer and build resilience within the family system, hoping to create relationships that last based on mutual respect, trust, 5 reasons why transitions are tough for kids. And maybe what to do about them, what to do to overcome these things. I've been through at least one transition lately, and I would love for you in the comments in the chat right now to go ahead and just tell me, name a transition that you've been through in the last. For example, back to school transition is definitely a significant one. What else? What other transitions have you been experiencing? And it could be in the macro level of like, we're moving from one state to another, or like new home, very big change, very big transition, or we're mourning and the loss of a loved one and integrating this new normal of like grandma's not around anymore. Could be something macro, something really big, or it could be something pretty micro, like the daily transition of separating from screen time and getting ready for bed, or the daily transition of going from the dinner table or going from the breakfast table to then get ready for the day. So why are transitions difficult for kids? Number one, children are hardwired to be incredibly present with what is right in front of them, like what is happening right now in their present environment. They are very much experiencing their senses and trying to make sense of their experience. And so their mind is often right where it is. This is the gift of childhood. That's why we find children so darn cute, why we find them so endearing, why being around children can give us a sense of like sort of simple joy and simple pleasure of like daily life, of ordinary things becoming extraordinary because they're being so present with their experience of everyday life. It's a gift that we get to come into contact with when we have time with our children to really sink in and see things at their level, kind of come down into their perspective and check things out. What that also means, though, is that transitioning from one thing to the next can be challenging because they are so present with what's happening that it is sort of how their reality is currently constructed, if you could think of it that way. So you're asking them for more than just moving their attention to something else. You're actually asking them to uproot themselves and then go somewhere else, in time or space, and then root themselves again. And so it's just the idea of having to make that move can cause a little panic and anxiety for kids. And for adults too. I know lots of adults who also find transitions difficult. So one of the reasons why transitions are hard for kids is that they are incredibly present with what is right in front of them, and they've constructed their reality around what is happening in the moment. So going to a new moment with a new set of conditions is tough. Yes. Okay, so that's one reason. Another reason why transitions can be difficult and especially challenging for kids is that they have limited life experience. So what they're experiencing right now is a known, and what's over there may be an unknown, and they maybe don't have a lot of experience with it. This is particularly for transitions into the unknown, to a place they've never been, to an activity they've never tried, to being in the presence of people that they've never met before, or they have little familiarity or experience with. So it's another reason why transitions can be hard, particularly when there's newness or an unknown on the other side. Their limited life experience tells them this could be hard, or this could be dangerous, or this could be uncomfortable, or some uncertainty can come up, and that can definitely put on the brakes. I don't want to go over there. I don't know enough about it. Yeah. So that's another reason why transitions can be tricky. Another is that kids can also get really attached to as humans, but I think particularly with kids, they don't have it goes back to life experience, but from a different angle. They don't have enough life experience and perspective to have built up enough memories that this thing that they're putting a pause on will still be there when they get back to that space or place or time, kind of zone, more often than not. And so they're still learning this idea, like even as very young kids, the babies, they're learning about object permanence. Like, hey, if you can't see this pencil, it still exists. I mean, their senses are saying it's gone, it's not here, but guess what? It's still here. So you can do a lot of like peekaboo, like, oh, I'm gone. No, I'm back, with babies. And it's like the most hilarious joke because they're like, oh my gosh, every time, like, you didn't leave, you're actually still here, So there's a bit of that can carry on through childhood and even into tween and teendom where, it can feel like now or never, right? Like if I don't finish this right now, I'll never get to finish it. If I don't complete my my project, right? If I don't get to finish telling you the story, or if I don't fully examine this butterfly I found, then I may never get another chance to do it. And you just love that eagerness, right? And that drive and motivation and that like wonder that they're experiencing, but then it can also slow the train down quite a bit when it comes to transitioning. So they can get really attached to hearing the end of the story. They can get really attached to finishing the show or watching the next episode, especially screen time, especially with episodes, because they're built to leave you hanging and wanting more. So you watch more hours means more time, means more advertising money. And you can explain that to the children that it's designed to do that. Games are too. But there's definitely this feeling of like panic that can set in and this like stubbornness around like, no, I'm going to finish. I need to finish. So that's the third reason. So we've had three reasons so far, pretty big ones. Simple reason can be that they're just so in their bubble that like they're just not they're not interested in anything else. And so whatever's on the other side of that transition is just less interesting. And so they don't have that intrinsic motivation of interest-based motivation to get them off their seat, out of their seat and doing the next thing. So it could be that the high interest thing is happening now. The next thing is perceived as boring or uninteresting or whatever. It's not about being scared or anxious or not having enough experience. It's just less interesting. And who can blame them, right? Because that's sort of where we're wired to be like wandering in the world and pursuing interest and discovering how things work. And then the last reason why transitions can be hard that we're going to cover today, because there's more, is just plain stubbornness. And what I mean by that is stubbornness is actually usually either from like attention, power, or fear, right? So they can be stubborn because they're scared and anxious, stubborn because they're wanting the attention that they get when they're stubborn, or they could be stubborn because they want more power in the situation. So it's a power grab. And assessing which kind of stubbornness it is is a lot of what we have on our shoulders. Like, what could actually be going on here? If it's for attention, then oftentimes how it'll show up, and this is a little diagnostic for you, it'll show up as they're holding their stance, but they're looking at you like, what are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna give me, but then, and it's not in this like I'm taking you on kind of way. It's more just like curious, like I wonder what kind of attention I'm going to get. And they don't even do it consciously, but it's there. Like you can kind of catch that flavor. If it's for power, then there's more of that grr, like you can't make me, right? Like I'm the boss of this, I'm the boss of me. I'm the boss of this device. I'm the boss of this time. I'm the boss of this space. I'm the boss of you, right? And that can be a different kind of stubbornness. And then the fear-based stubbornness is more like what we were talking about. Like they're like kind of maybe apprehensive, and they're digging in out of self-protection. So there's a lot of ways this can go. Yeah. But what I want you to do is just like, think about the last time that your child was really having a tough time with a transition and see if any of these possible reasons seems to be the fit. I know Shalini's here. Hi, Shalini. She says that screen time to bed and playing to bath and also back to school are some transitions. Yeah, that you've seen your children go through recently. And that's saying that when they're too focused and invested or not flexible, or maybe the brain is not wired that way, maybe too present. And yeah, so that's kind of what you've been noticing. Mhm. So, and it's interesting, Shalini here is saying, who is, by the way, a member of our Robust Routines program. Yay! It's a 6-week course that we've kicked off, and we're so excited to work through your routines with you, Shalini. It's going to be so much fun. But you were saying giving heads up or time in between activities is useful. Yes. So here are a few things that you can do to make it less tough. Give ample time for transitions. Children need it. They have a difficult time snapping from one reality to another, or getting over their apprehensive stubbornness, their attention-seeking stubbornness, or their power-seeking stubbornness. And they need time to kind of update their limited life experience of like, oh, this really is going to be here when I get back, or whatever's happening next is safe enough. And they need basically a transition from one reality to another. And that's why we call them a transition, because something changes, right? So building in time, and Shalini, when we do your break it down steps, and with the group today, we'll be talking about this quite a bit, building in time for transitions, like acknowledging that they are their own event between the events. So it's not just screen time and bed, it's screen time and the transition to bed and then bed. So there's actually an intermediary step that is the transition itself. Every talented classroom teacher I've ever encountered knows this. This is like one of their secrets that they figured out. And I think that, with your work with the children, Shalini, you've probably really seen like how important it is to manage your expectations for how long things take to transition. Really good. We've got some other folks here that I know are interested in this topic. We've got Todd and Danielle. Curious if you would put in the chat, what are some transitions that you've run into with your kids in the last hours, days, weeks, months, and which stands out to you? What kind of flavor do you think was there? So what I was saying to Shalini is I wonder if the main thing for your kids is really acknowledging that reality change that they're going through, and maybe connecting with them in their current bubble of reality, and seeing and being present with what they're focused on, and like helping them sort of, like you said, give them a heads up, help them imagine what it's going to be like to be over in this other version of reality, which is, screen time, bedtime, really different, right? What would it look like when we go over here to bedtime? Oh, it's going to be so cozy. I can't wait till we get to read that story. Won't that be nice? Oh yeah, and then we'll cuddle up and you'll get a big hug from me. And I know it's going to be different, but it'll be okay, right? If you think they need some reassurance or they need some attention, like I can't wait to read your story and cuddle up on you, and like basically when we go over there, you're going to get all the attention, so you don't need to get it right now by resisting this transition. I'll go over there and I'll see you in a minute. Pull the attention away, have them come and find you, and get, the attention happens over there. If it's power, you could say, hey, look, you're the boss of the button. You get to turn off the device. Yeah, you get to turn it off. You get to push the button. But unfortunately, the clock is also the boss. And the clock is saying, oh, man, yeah, it's time to push that button. So there's some kind of power piece there that you could play with, and then giving them a lot of choice when they get to the next thing. Oh, I wonder what book you're going to choose. I wonder what clothes you're going to choose to wear tomorrow. If you're going to feel like wearing jeans or sweats, I wonder if you're going to go for a sweater or a sweatshirt, like all about them and their choices and their power. So those are some ways you can possibly get through some of these transitions if you feel like there's a tension and power at play. So the heads up is helpful. Danielle, transition to her own bedroom. Good. Okay. Remember the one I said that was like working with or against their interest level? I don't know if you caught that one, Danielle, but what's so helpful is going, okay, your interest is here. How can we make the next thing just as interesting or more interesting, or at least find like a door to open that says, maybe this will be interesting. So they'll consider it. I had a family that exactly had that question. How do we get our kid to transition from the living room to the bedroom? And they said, because as soon as she sees that we're heading towards the bedroom, she starts feeling, no, I don't want to go, because she associated that with soon we're going to separate and I'm going to have to go to sleep and you guys are going to leave and go have your fun back in the living room. So she felt like it was the beginning to the end of the day, and it was true, but she had this like kind of very negative association with it, and it was definitely not fun. So the parents changed it up because they were doing like, well, you gotta, and right? And then that wasn't working, pressuring her. Nope, she's a very strong individual. This young, I think she was at the time 3.5. Yeah, 3.5-year-old. So they made it as fun as possible, and they made up a new game, and it's kind of like Lava Monster, but instead they did lily pads and sharks. And they said, I wonder how you're going to get from lily pad to lily pad tonight. And then she would sometimes hop with 1 foot, or she'd hop with 2 feet, or she would make a big sound, and she would hop her way basically on these lily pads into the bedroom. And then it was a game that she was excited about, and it just sort of shifted her focus, and her interest was there, and it became more bearable. And beyond that, it became like something she looked forward to, something fun for her. Yeah. So I wonder about that, Danielle, of like bringing in something like high interest and fun that's in the flavor of what motivates your child, because maybe it, but something else would be. It could also be that attention piece, like letting her know that she's going to get all this attention in the bedroom, and really making that true. It could be giving her a lot of power of like how she's going to get to the bedroom, and she gets to choose, and when she's there, she gets to choose. So that's another dimension you could play with. I don't think it's probably as much about unknowns and fear of the unknowns, because I think she knows what's going on in her bedroom, and maybe there's that. And then you can also just like hack the routine around it. Like what happens before this, what happens during this transition, what happens after, and involve her more, so that she really gets the sequence of it and can walk through it in a way that feels like it's hers, instead of like, often parents end up in this position just reminding, and then the kid's like either saying yes or no, either like going along with it or ignoring it or doing the opposite. We've all been there. So I'm curious, Danielle, like, what do you think is the flavor of your child's like trickiness with this transition? Do you feel like she's anxious from unknowns, or wanting more attention? Okay, she's clingy. Then has to do with attention, and possibly some sleep training. Yeah, and like getting used to the separation, and really building in some ritual and routine around how she actively participates in falling asleep. By like, for example, we used to do this on a nap room because it was the only way that we would ever survive it. Is just have the kids show us their resting body and be actively involved in falling asleep. But then also within families, it can be trickier because it's usually like a 1-to-1, or at the most like 2-to-2 ratio, or 1-to-2. And sleep training is necessary, where we do things like camping out or taking breaks, excuse me, drill, and some other ones that, we could explore if you'd like. Because I wonder if she gets more secure in her sleep training, if she'll be less clingy at bedtime. But I think that if she had a solid bedtime routine that she felt really secure about, she would be she'd be actually even excited to do it with you. And I think that would be the difference. So going from like clingy to excited, or like at least feeling like secure and close. So I would love to chat more with you, Danielle, if you have a chance. Did a bunch, but you can check it out on my link, and then maybe send me an email if you don't have an easy time finding a spot on my calendar right now, so I can share that with you. We have a couple left this round. I believe we have 1 or 2 this week, but let me know if you don't see something. Okay. So yeah, giving them expectations will ease their minds, to something Shalini said. Yes, of course. Yes, good. That previewing, but it's like, what is the flavor of the previewing that you think they need? Is it around that attention, or the power, or high interest, or easing their concerns of the unknown, or acclimating them, or is it acknowledging that there's a reality change and helping them predict that? Like, there's a lot of nuances in here, and I would love to know, like, Shalini, after hearing these ideas, like, what stands out to you? Let us know. And then I know that Ta, you were here last week. Great to have you back. Maybe just say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, age of your child. Shalini says yes. Okay, great. Good. All right, wonderful. Yeah, and those of you who are in the Facebook group, this video will be up for some times for y'all to check out. So hope you have a chance to get back to me too. You can always just put replay and put your comments, and I do get notifications, so we can still have this conversation if you're not here live. Hello, Ta, welcome. So glad that you're joining us. Nice to see you here. So that concludes our Monday Mindset Moment. Do put in the chat something that stood out to you. Maybe it's like there's a particular flavor of transition that is tough for your kid, and maybe you have now an idea of how you might tackle it by stating it to the group and to others and to yourself. It's something you'll remember more easily. That's a little like learning hack. And then also we can benefit from your perspective. So it's always a great thing to go ahead and add that in. And Ta, okay, with your 4, 9, 11, and 13-year-old, you must be having transitions every couple minutes. Yes, I know. I mean, I've been in classrooms of 12, 24, 36, and 48 children. And I have to say that four can be pretty dynamic. I have this, before I say goodbye, I just say I have these this client couple who are raising 4 children in Oakland, California. A little bit less spread between the younger two. So it's more like from 5 to 11 was the range. And it's interesting that how much the older kids got on board with the transitions when they got to have more influence on how they went, and that the younger ones kind of followed suit, right? So just a quick tip, Ta, is like, work on your older ones first, actually. Get them in on the team of like trying to discover like how to make transitions go more smoothly, or how to make routines go more smoothly, or how to get on the same page as a family about limits, or how to, how whatever it is that you all want to work on next. I have these 7 pillars that I bring my clients through. So I just named a couple of them, but whatever it is, like, get your older kids on board first and really make it more like a thought partnership, and in service of the younger kids can be a way in, or helping them really get to know themselves. Like 11 and 13-year-olds are pretty self-obsessed. And so if you can take the angle of like, let's figure out what your motivation, like what your best motivation strategies are, like what's your motivation map? Let's figure out your best like calm down strategies. So like when you do have stress and tension and your lid is slipping, like, how to put that lid back on, and and it's so important for 11 and 13-year-olds, let them have different opinions, let them have different strategies that work. Like maybe one of your kids is all about like high interest, but the other one is all about like becoming competent in something. And those are their different motivation maps. And let them be different, and let it be a good thing that you're discovering each person's unique sort of constellation of, coping strategies, motivation strategies, etc. And ways of navigating transitions, especially, that's going to work for each of them. And I think your 9-year-old could also get in on this pretty well as well. Like I've had a lot of success having these higher level conversations. Most parents are lagging behind their kids in terms of their parenting by 6 months to 2 years. So I'm not saying that's Utah, but I always put this out there. Like if you're having any trouble with your 9, 11, and 13-year-old, especially, try aging up your parenting a bit. Yeah, just a little touch. So instead of like, what do you want to wear today? Do you want to wear this or that? And saying like, what's the weather like? What do you think you might need to do to prepare for today? It's like a bigger question, a more sophisticated question. I've noticed that it's hard for you to transition out of bed in the mornings. What do you think will end time? And if you don't, then something bad's going to happen. Or like giving them exactly how you should set your alarm earlier, or something. That's a little too low. Like they're ready to start problem solving and coming up with it. 9 is the most sensitive to this, by the way. I'd say 9 and 12 are the most sensitive to this, like being behind in your parenting to some level. So I would be curious, Todd. I mean, maybe check my schedule to see if there's anything open. And if it's not, what I can do is I'll take a look. What I can do is I can open up some spots. I'm looking right now. Yeah, no, there's no times available right now. When I get off this call right now, I'll go open up my schedule. So for a couple spots. So grab that link. Let's see if we can chat this through, because I'd love to support you. And I give folks a one-time complimentary 30-minute session where we can jam on things and get you some support. Okay. So let's see about that. Because your 9-year-old is ready. Like 9-year-olds are ready to step it up, but we have to know how to meet them where they are. And I'm sure you're doing that in some ways, but there's maybe some things that we could build in that would take it further. So let's explore that. Yeah. Would you go ahead and save that link? Yes. Yeah. Because I'd love to support you with that. All right, y'all. I do need to wrap up. Really good to have an extended time together. 3 boys and 1 girl. Got it, Ta. Nice. Yeah, let's talk more, please. Thanks for the opportunity to coach you today and to share these tips. We're here Mondays at noon as much as possible. and hoping to have a chance to see you all come more consistently and get more out of this. And thank you for those of you who are popping in the chat and commenting. It just makes the conversation richer and more meaningful with your examples and your takeaways. Shalini says she'll observe and journal as it can be lost after the fact of like that flavor, but now you know what to look for, Shalini, and I love that. All right, see you next time. Lots of love, everybody. Bye for now.